Stock market investors, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jay, and today we will be talking about SoFi stock and how much lower the stock can go. We're trading in the $13 range. Just a couple weeks ago, it touched $18, up from the sixes of last summer, man. It's been quite the downward spiral, not just for this stock, but several tech stocks. Palantir has been obliterated. It was at up to 120 some odd dollars. It's in the 80s now, guys. Big time losses. I warned you guys about Palantir stock. I knew it was only going to take a kernel of bad news or potentially bad news to send this stock skyrocketing towards the $90 and $80 range, and that's exactly what happened. SoFi investors, if you can do me a huge favor and hit that like button, it really does help us get into the algorithm. And if you like my content, please consider subscribing to the channel. We're closing in on our first 2,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. All right, if we take a look at the screen right here, guys, SoFi stock is down to $13.92, up 6 cents after hours. Woohoo! But it's been a brutal couple days. Last 5 days, we're down almost 17%. Over the last month, down around 13%. Still up 81% over the last 6 months. We're down 2% year to date. And over the last calendar year from today, we are up 63%. Not bad, guys, if you're looking at this stock in the long term, right? All right, stock market investors, it was another bad day in the market. S&P 500 down around 0.5%. But it was down a lot lower earlier in the trading day, so I guess we'll, take what we can get. But over the last 5 days, we're down about 3%. Over the past month, down 1%. Over the past 6 months, still up around 6%. From the peak down to the bottom, we're down about 3% on the S&P 500. The NASDAQ hasn't been so lucky, right? The NASDAQ down another 1.35% today, around 5% losses just in 5 trading days, which is pretty remarkable, guys. Over the last month, about down 1%. From the peak to the trough, over 5% in losses. So we're halfway to a correction, guys. In the last 6 months, we are up 7%. Year to date, we went negative, right? So S&P 500 year to date up 1.5%. NASDAQ is in the red. The first 2 months of the trading year, not necessarily great. The Russell has been obliterated over the last few days. They actually did better than the NASDAQ somehow, down about, 0.5% today. Over the last 5 days, down almost 5%. Over the last month, down 5%. 6 months, trading around down 2%. Year to date, down 3%. Not great. Over the last year, only up 7% for those small cap Russell 2000 stocks. The Dow Jones has fared better than the other stocks. Year to date, up around 3%. Down around 2% the last 5 days. Down 2.5% over the last month. But over the last year, solid-ish gains of around 12%. Right. So how much farther can SoFi stock travel down, right? Up towards $18, in the $13 range now. Let's just take a look at some valuation measurements here, guys. This is the total market cap right here, trading at a considerable high as opposed to, 2023 in September of $7.5 billion, right? The forward PE is in the 50s, right? Back in September of 2024, that forward PE was in the 30s, which looked pretty good. But before that, the stock was way too expensive, right? So we're coming back down towards where we were at in September. And if we look at the stock, 6 months ago, trading in September, we were in that $7 to $8-ish range. So if we get that PE back in the 40s, I like that, right? Anything under a forward PE under 40 for a stock growing like SoFi stock, I'm in. But up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s where it was trading at when it was $18, $19 a share, I'm not really a buyer at that particular price point, right? When SoFi stock dipped into that 1350 range, I was a buyer at that price point. I added 100 shares to my position today. We're right around 5,200 shares overall in our portfolio. The price to book is still a little bit rich, right? If we look at the history of SoFi stock over the last year and a half, we want to get that price to book under 2, in my opinion, to be a extensive buyer of SoFi shares. Enterprise value to revenue, it's not as low as it was back in June and September of last year, but the stock is in a way better position, right? Back then it was trading in that $6, $7, $8 range. We're almost double that right now. $13.98 after hours for SoFi stock, right? So I think for me, the lowest this stock really goes before buyers really start stepping in and making huge purchases is probably in that $10 or $11 range. At $14 per share, at $10, the forward PE would be like probably almost in the 20s then, high 20s, somewhere in that area. But the trailing PE at 36, I want to buy SoFi under 30 for sure. Forward PE, depending on where SoFi goes these next few quarters, we got to see how the economy is, right? Donald Trump is firing a ton of federal workers. Inflation continues to rise. He said those tariffs to Mexico and Canada are going to start soon. So that's not a good thing. The tariffs are already going with China, and we're going to see price increases everywhere. Big companies where we buy our stuff every day, like Amazon, Walmart, Target, the majority of the products they buy in their stores come from overseas, most likely China. So they're going to have to raise their prices with these tariffs, right? Because remember, guys, tariffs are not paid by China, Mexico, or Canada. They're paid by the person buying these products. Walmart, Target, wherever you want to call it. If they're buying from China, there will be a tariff, so that will increase the prices, right? So for me, probably under $12 a share is when I'll start to really add shares to SoFi stock. Right now, I'm just kind of waiting it out. I'll nibble a little bit. $13.50, I thought it was like some overselling, so I nibbled a little bit today. Guys, be careful in this market. I would stay away from options right now. I would just buy shares of companies that you love. The volatility is crazy. Stocks like Hims, Palantir, SoFi are extremely volatile right now, guys. So just add slowly. This way you're not stuck in a bad position. Unless you're an experienced option trader, I would stay away from options. So under $12 a share, I am a buyer of SoFi. I will be buying blocks of SoFi under $12 per share intermittently. But for now, I'm just kind of waiting it out, selling some covered calls in that $15, $16, $17 range over the next couple of weeks, collecting some premium, and whatever premium I do get, I will be buying shares of companies like SoFi and dividend players like QYLD, JEPI. I like those kind of dividend monthly payers that don't get super volatile in these markets. Another stock I'm looking at buying right now is conservative stocks like Verizon. They're paying over a 6% dividend, and as yields go down, I expect people to pile into these dividend players. SoFi is already at 3.5% down from 4.5%. So if you can get some share appreciation with Verizon, even if it's at 5-ish, 10%, and then you're getting that 6-7% dividend, that seems pretty juicy to me. All right, guys, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace.